Hey, it's Pastor Mike Conklin. I'm alive. Yes, I am still kicking. I've been well. Been very busy, and I've had numerous requests from people to say over the years I've been doing these online devotions. Can I still continue to do them now that I am technically retired? Um, but I'm not really retired. So my retirement lasted a week. I ended up taking a position out at Lakeside Chautauqua here in Marblehead, where I am the religious life coordinator, which I have youth ministry and teen ministry and worship services and things like that I am responsible for. A family picnic on Wednesdays out at Chautauqua, so I'm out there at least 4 days a week, and we'll see how this plays out. But it's a beautiful place, nice people. Very interesting environment at Chautauqua. I'll talk more about it as my devotions go on. About the pillars that these communities were founded on, and it's wonderful to have this religious and this arts and health, these pillars that just sort of are beneficial to being a human being and the community that has formed around those pillars. And there's several Chautauquas around. There used to be a lot more in the 1900s and in the 20th century, um, but a lot of them have faded away. But this is still one of the more prominent ones where I'm at. And but technically, I am retired, which is why I'm wearing my "I'll be in the garage" shirt, because I've been spending some time in the garage and in the yard also. Um, my retirement lasted a week, as I said. So, but I felt this was a good time to kick back in because of the text for this upcoming Sunday, Matthew 13:24 through 43. It's so misunderstood and so often used as a weapon and weaponized against people. And I just thought, well, maybe I should dive into this and we'll see what we can do with it. So let's take a look at this today. And if you like my devotion, make sure you like me on YouTube. The more followers I get, the better perks, the more perks I get, and it's easier for me to do. So I'm using an old YouTube page that I had. So if you get this, that's why I've started it back up again. But if you're not subscribing to me, please do subscribe to my page if you like what you're hearing. Let's look at Matthew 13:24 through 43. Matthew, remember, the gospel writer. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, we talk about the Gospels, but we talk about the Gospel writer of Matthew. Now, Matthew was more than likely a Jew writing to a Jewish community. And Matthew wasn't really happy with the Jewish community that he was writing to. This is his people, because they weren't accepting Jesus. They understood they were the chosen people, and that God had chose the Jewish people and elected them for a special mission, but they had rejected Jesus. And so immediately that tells us, when we read this text about the wheat and the tares, or the wheat and the weeds, why would Matthew write his gospel to reinforce the old thinking that we're chosen and you're not, we're good and you're not? Why would Matthew want to reinforce that kind of thinking? Well, he wouldn't. And so we have to factor that in theologically into our biblical understanding of the text. This is a problem I think that a lot of people have, is they immediately think, well, Christianity is all about being a good person, or that Christianity is all about getting to heaven and staying out of hell. It's not. I mean, we don't discourage people from being good, and we all want to end up in heaven. But it's not about separating the sheep and the goats. It's not about separating the wheat and the weeds. It's about separating the sin from the person. Yes, we are both wheat and weeds. We grow together. And so when the kingdom is in place at the end of the era, there's no sin because sin has been burned up and taken away from us. Because remember, as Paul says, we are both saint and sinner. Simul justus et peccator, both justified and sinner at the same time. That is a theological proposition that you have to understand when you read these texts. Because if you don't, you're going to go, well, I don't want to be bad. I want to be good. I want to go to heaven. I don't want to go to hell. Jesus comes and removes the sin from us. That's why the text says, wait until the end. Wait until the end. And then God will separate the wheat and the weeds. So think of this from the perspective of Matthew, a Jewish author writing to a Jewish audience. He's not reinforcing what they already believe. He's trying to tell them that you've rejected Jesus because Jesus comes in and we all are guilty of sin. We all are having this difficulty. We don't pull the weeds out now, which is what we see a lot of people, especially in our culture right now, and in this political environment that we're in, which is so terrible. It's just awful, the meanness that I see out there. That we are not pulling the weeds because we're both weeds and wheat at the same time. And if you pull the weeds, you pull the wheat. So again, let's go ahead and read it, and I'll comment as I go on this text, which is what I usually do anyway, right? So Matthew 13:24 through 43. He put before them another parable. He's been speaking in parables. He just last week, if you were in church, you probably heard the parable of the sower. And I love that parable because it's not about what kind of soil is thrown on. It's about there's enough seed to go everywhere. And how do you know where the soil is going to take and where it's not? But anyway, he put before them another parable. The kingdom of heaven, he's been using this phrase, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to someone who sowed good seed in his field. Immediately when I hear that, I think of the creation story. God sows the good seed. Jesus sows the good seed. And this creation, and when God created the world, it was good. All was good. Then, but while everyone was asleep, the enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat and went away. The fall. And remember, if you've listened to me before, you've said everything goes back to the 3rd chapter of Genesis. We fall down, God picks us up. Again, we start out good, we fall down, God picks us up. We go all right, we fall down, God picks us up. Same story, okay? So, when the enemy came and sowed the weeds among the wheat and went away. The enemy in Greek is exthros, which the root of exthros is to hate, to inflict harm, to be hostile. So think about what is inflicts harm, what is about hate, what is about hostility, sin. So the enemy came and sowed weeds among the wheat. And what are the weeds? The weed is the sin. And then went away. And so when the plants came up and bore grain, the weeds appeared as well. And the slaves of the householder came and said to him, Master, did you not sow good seed in your field? Where then did these weeds come from? He answered, the enemy has done this. And the slave said to him, then do you want us to go and gather them And he replied, no, for in gathering the weeds you will uproot the wheat along with them. Let both grow together and until the harvest, and then at that time I will tell the reapers, collect the weeds first, bind them in bundles to be burned, and gather the wheat into my barn. So, wheat and weeds are somewhat symbiotic. They grow up together. You don't want to pull them up because you pull up the wheat if you pull up the weeds. Sin in us. We are both righteous. We are both God's children and sinful at the same time. If you pull the sin out of if you pull us up now, the sin out of us now and kill us now, there's no righteousness. So you want to, and this is what the text is about. God allows good and evil to exist together until the kingdom comes. And when the kingdom comes, he pulls the weeds out and burns them up. Burn, baby, burn. Burn the sin right out of me. I don't want it. It's no good for anything. It's hostile. It's harmful. So we let the sin be burned up in the end. That's the good news. God comes in the end in Jesus Christ and burns up the sin. And so but the good part of us, the wheat, the fruit, that remains. But the sin is burned. So I'm not afraid of fire, because fire is cleansing. And then he put to them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like a mustard seed that someone took and sowed in his field, the smallest of all seeds, but when it is grown, it is the greatest of shrubs and becomes a tree, so that the birds of the air come and make its nest in its branches. Okay, so even though evil and sin looks overpowering and we feel like we have to get rid of it and we have to be in control of it, the smallest little kernel of the kingdom overrides sin. The smallest little piece of the kingdom will put down sin. It's like I've said before. The kingdom, God wins. We know the end of the story. There is no doubt what's going to happen. So even though it may seem overwhelming, even though there are times in our lives when we're sick or we're ill or there are negative things happening to us, we have to keep faith that even the smallest part is going to override the evil that's going on in our lives. Then he tells them another parable. The kingdom of heaven is like yeast that a woman took and mixed in with 3 measures of flour until it was all leavened. So, yeast, the kingdom again. This little bit of yeast leavens the 3 measures of flour. The littlest part of the kingdom, the littlest part of God's grace overshadows and eliminates sin. And that is the whole idea. That's why Matthew tells these 2 other little parables to support the other parable. It's not about separating people. It's not about separating people one from another. It's about separating the sin from the person. And what happens is I think where this parable gets misinterpreted so badly is that people begin to want to separate people. Well, we have to separate the bad people from the good, and this is bad and this is good. And then we start making those decisions because we think somehow we're in control. And the whole idea of this parable is God is in control, not us. So God is the one who separates the sin from the person. We can't do that. We are incapable of doing that. We have tried. If you remember a few weeks ago, I don't know if you remember. Well, it's hard for me to discern. Well, it was probably more than a few weeks ago. But when I've talked about sin hamartia is like a target, and the bullseye is when you can hit the bullseye, you don't sin. The problem is we don't hit the bullseye. We keep practicing with our bow and arrow, trying to hit the center of the target, but we keep missing. And we keep practicing, we keep practicing, and we think that if we just practice enough, we'll be able to eliminate sin from our life. Doesn't work that way. And so that's why Matthew tells these two other parables. The kingdom is like yeast. The kingdom is like a tiny little seed. And that's all it takes to change the world. Just that little bit of grace, that little bit of forgiveness, that little bit of love. And I was talking to someone yesterday, and they were saying, well, what? But if we extend grace to everybody, they'll take advantage of it. And I said, yeah, so what if they do? Well, that's not fair. Well, that's our problem, isn't it? Because we keep trying to be in control and make things fair and just in our minds. And this is what this parable's about, is this is God's justice. He lets the sin grow in us with the good part of us throughout our lives, because we can't escape it. And then in the end, he takes it away so that it can't enter the kingdom. There's no sin in the kingdom. But there is sin now. And we can talk about that in another time, but why does God allow sin to happen? Well, it is without it's kind of like the law and the gospel. If we didn't know what the law was, we wouldn't be appreciative of the gospel and the grace and the forgiveness. And we wouldn't understand what it is if we didn't have the law. So there has to be this understanding of sin theologically. Again, let's look at it from a point of view that we are both saint and sinner. Simul justa et peccator, both justified and saint at the same time, or sinner at the same time. Let's continue on with this, though. He told the crowds all these in parables, and without a parable, he told them nothing. I love parables. And if you think you're the hero in a parable, or you can be the hero in a parable, then you didn't understand the parable. Why would Jesus tell us a parable where we would be the hero? Jesus is always the hero in the parables. He did this to fulfill what had been spoken through the prophet. I will open my mouth and speak in parables. I will proclaim what has been hidden from the foundation of the world. Then he left the crowds and went into the house. And his disciples approached him, saying, explain to us the parable of the weeds in the field, because they're still thinking, separate the people, right? You got to separate the bad people from the good people. And we're the good people because we're following you, right? No, that's not what's going on here. He answered, the one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. Creation, Jesus, grace, forgiveness, love. The field is the world. The good seed are the children of the kingdom. The weeds are the children of the evil one. Now, that sure sounds like we're separating people. Remember, theologically, we are both saint and sinner. Remember, we are both one and the same. You can't, remember what Paul says, we all fall short. We have all sinned. That sin is part of our nature. So if you read this and you think that there are children of the kingdom and then there are children of the evil one, and you're part of the children of the kingdom and not part of the evil one, then you missed the point. Again, why is Matthew telling this to a group of Jews in his community who believe that already, that they're better than the others? He wouldn't be, because he's trying to get them to believe in Jesus. So when we talk about this, you have to make that theological jump. The enemy who sowed them is the devil, diabolos in the Greek. But remember, diabolos also comes from the word foe or adversary. So sin is our foe. Sin is our adversary. So the devil is the one who sows that. The harvest is at the end of the age, and the reapers are the angels. Okay, so No problem with the end of the age or the reapers are the angels, because just as the weeds are collected and burned up in the fire, so it will be at the end of the age. The Son of Man will send his angels. They will collect out of the kingdom all the causes of sin and all evildoers. Who are all the evildoers? We're the evildoers. So he's going to collect all the causes of sin and all the evildoers and throw them into the furnace. So that sinful part of me, that sinful Adam, that's, not the new Adam, not the Jesus Christ in me, that is going to get thrown into the fire and burned up. And that's not going to be part of my personality in the kingdom, because I won't have that part anymore. And they will throw them into the furnace of fire, where there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. I hope sin weeps and gnashes his teeth to the 10th degree, because that's what should happen. Yes, there are weeping and gnashing of teeth, but it's not about, again, as soon as you turn this into a division of people and separating people, then it's no longer the good news. It's no longer the gospel. It has become bad news. It has become the law. And we are not saved by the law. We are saved by the gospel. And we have to remember that. But it's so easy and it's so tempting to fall into that trap. And people do it all the time. I mean, just, look on the news, read the paper, live your life. You're going to see that that's how people think. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom and of their Father. Let anyone with ears listen. So, in other words, let anyone with ears listen is kind of a common phrase that he uses, but it it's probably it's not what you think you hear. You have to go next level on this stuff. If you don't go next level, you're going to miss the whole point. Well, shouldn't it be easy? Shouldn't it be easily understood? Shouldn't children be able to understand it? Children do understand it. Children understand that they are evil and do bad things, but they also understand that they have a parent who loves them and cares for them, so that even when they do bad things, they're going to be cared for. And parents don't want bad things to happen to their kids, and they don't want them to do bad things. So they work with them and they try. Um, but if we just go at this and turn it into a moralism, that there are good and bad people and God's going to sort them out in the end, that is not what the text is talking about, and that's not what Matthew's talking about. Even though it may sound like that, it's not. And, people say, well, that's not what I understood. I'm like, well, I'm sorry you understood that, but then you understand bad news. Because if it's about separating people, we're doomed. Because we're all going to be part of that fiery furnace. And we are anyway. But the part of it that gets burned up is the sin. And that's okay with me. Let it burn up. Burn up. What else can I say about this? I don't know. I've gone about 23 minutes. So, good text, though, I think, to come back on and say, all right, if you've been waiting for me to come back and do devotions, then this is what you're going to get. Because you're not going to get bad news. You're going to get good news. And the good news is that Jesus saves us from our sin. And it burns up in the fiery furnace. And as far as I'm concerned, good riddance. So, wanted to do a song. I usually do a song if you haven't seen me do this. And this is one of my faves from way back. It's an old gospel song. Actually, when was this written? Doesn't really say, but Catherine Hankey, actually it was Arabella Catherine Hankey, who was born 1834, died in 1911. That sounds like a fairly good long life. Was an English missionary nurse, was an Anglican, did a lot of work in London and Sunday schools, started Sunday schools, and was very supportive of foreign missionaries. And she wrote a poem called The Old, Old Story. And supposedly she wrote it in her 30s. when she was very ill and she had a very long recovery. And so that's when this poem came to be. And then the poem became the song. I love to tell the story. I love to tell the story of unseen things above, of Jesus and his glory, of Jesus and his love. I love to tell the story because I know it's true. It satisfies my longings as nothing else would do. I love to tell the story. 'Twill be my theme and glory to tell the old, old story of Jesus and his love. I love to tell the story, how pleasant to repeat what seems each time I tell it more wonderfully sweet. I love to tell the story, for some have never heard its message of salvation from God's own holy word. I love to tell the story, 'twill be my theme and glory to tell the old, old story of Jesus and his love. I love to tell the story, for those who know it best seem hungering and thirsting to hear it like the rest. And when in scenes of glory I sing the new song, I'll sing the old, old story that I have loved so long. I love to tell the story, 'twill be my theme and glory to tell the old, old story of Jesus and his love. Tell the story of Jesus and his love, the good news. That's what you're going to hear. That's what I'm going to be about, the good news. So I will try and do a weekly devotion. If I get into it, maybe I'll do two, but I am working again. So, and I'll be probably talking about some things out at Lakeside occasionally. And I have a little more freedom now, so I can talk a little bit more about politics, although I don't tend to dwell a lot on politics because I don't think that our hope is in politics. Our hope is in Jesus Christ. And I still believe God's in control. And so we will meet again and see how this goes. Again, if you like what you're hearing, please subscribe to my page. I'll be posting this on Facebook to get the word out again. And please, I hope you appreciate what you're hearing. So let us pray. Gracious Lord Jesus, you are the King of heaven and earth, and your kingdom reigns. And in your kingdom there is no sin. But we are sinners, and we admit it, and we confess that. And we ask for your forgiveness, and we ask for your saving grace to lead us in this life to your will and to your ways. Lift us up. Help us, give us strength and courage to face those around us that want to condemn and pull the weeds. Help us to be that calming influence, the hope that the smallest seed, that the least amount of yeast, whatever the kingdom has, is enough. And when we realize that all we have is you, that is enough. And through you we pray. Amen. All right. Well, that's it for today. I will try and keep this up and see what we do. Needed some separation time, so I hope you are doing well, and peace.